Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse, this is Baby Bunny, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. Today we are continuing our series on the ABCs of Mythology, which is a 2019 YouTube Pagans video challenge. If you are participating in this 2019 ABCs of Mythology challenge, I invite you to share your videos in a link in the comments below so that we can all learn about this amazing topic of mythology. And also, if you are participating in another type of YouTube challenge for 2019, please also leave a link in those comments so that we can share in the knowledge with you. So today we are focusing on D, and today D is for Danu. So I am going a little bit more on track with what I think the Mythology Challenge was supposed to be about. See, I never play by the rules, see? I'm a fae, I have my own way of doing things, I'm not human, so I'm going to use that as my defense. But today I am in fact talking about a goddess, which I haven't really been doing for my previous videos, although I will argue that A for Arthur is a god, Arthur the god, so there you go. So I have not necessarily been off track the entire series. But today I have brought you the goddess Danu. Now, the reason that I wanted to focus on Danu, even though unfortunately this ancient goddess of Celtic mythology does not have a lot of surviving stories, if you will, the reason that I wanted to focus on her is that she is said to be the mother of the Tuatha, and that is a race, an ancient race of fae beings, and they are the Irish version, I believe, of the Scandinavian Alfar, or the elves. These beings actually bear a lot of similarities, so they are fae beings, and as I did this 2019 video challenge, I wanted to bring you some mythology concepts that were in some way related to the fae. So here we are with Danu. Now, as I mentioned, she is said to be the mother of the Tuatha from Ireland, but she is also said to be the mother of all gods. So there are some theories that her name comes from a Gaelic word Dan, which is related to poetry and knowledge. So she is associated with very feminine energy. So her elements that she is connected to is the element of water and also the element of earth. And if you know anything about Western elemental lore, is that water and earth are said to be of a feminine energy, whereas fire and air are said to be of a male energy, so that the elements themselves have a balance. In the Western traditions, there are 4 elements, not to be confused with the Eastern elements, where there are 5. In Western lore, there is a balance between male and female. And so Danu is associated with that feminine energy of water and then earth. So what does that mean? Well, water is associated with kind of an other world, so that is another connection to the fae there. In fact, in some traditions, it is said that a passport to the realm of the fae was through death. So it was often said that when the ancestors would then fall into the realm of the fae. So the water represented that otherworldliness, water represented that flux between life and death, and the cycle, the continuing cycle of rebirth as well. And if you think about it, the womb, when a baby is within the mother, it is contained in a sac of fluid. So fluid and water is very much associated with feminine energy. So some of her other correlations are she is associated with fish in general because of that water connection. On her earth association, she is associated with farming because, once again, an agricultural setting, particularly with Western goddesses and gods, often was associated as a feminine quality because the earth was considered resonant with feminine energy. So she is associated with farming and fertility. And also is a motherhood goddess, a goddess associated with childbirth, with motherhood, with the nurturing of children. So I will come back to her associations at the end of the video, but I'm going to go on with some correlations. What's interesting about Danu is I did mention that I was really unable to find any story to tell you of her. I was unfortunate to be unable to find a surviving myth to tell you about the goddess Danu. But what is interesting about her is that she seems to be a part of that collective unconsciousness that I mentioned in my C is for Cultural Appropriation video, which I will have linked in the description box below. Because Danu seems to appear worldwide. There is actually an Eastern goddess in the Hindu culture by the same name, and she actually has a great many of the same kinds of associations and correlations. So the Danu of the Hindu tradition is also a goddess associated with birth and life and death and rebirth, and also motherhood, fertility, agriculture. She has these same kinds of connections. So one could make a strong argument that the Western Irish goddess Danu and the Eastern Hindu goddess Danu may in fact be the very same goddess that has traversed the world and appeared in these cultures, not by cultural appropriation, but by collective unconscious. In that she was such a powerful, resonant, meaningful spiritual being that was important worldwide. There are also some theories that Danu and Diana of the Greco-Roman pantheon have some connection. And so I would be interested to hear from any of you out there, if you are a supplicant of Danu, if you are a follower of hers, do you feel that Danu of the Hindu tradition is the same goddess or a different goddess? Likewise, if you are a practicing Hindu and you have some connections to the goddess Danu in the Hindu tradition, by all means, if you would share your thoughts on whether this is the same goddess that appeared in ancient Ireland. And also, if you are a follower of Diana, who is associated with the Amazons and with the moon in the Greco-Roman tradition, do you feel that there might be, in fact, a connection to Danu? Are they, in fact, one and the same, or do you think that they are different goddesses? I would be very interested to hear your thoughts. Now, some other names that Danu goes by, there are many people who believe that Danu and Anna of ancient Ireland are the same goddess. It's simply a typo or a misrecording of ancient languages, and they believe that those are the same beings. And although there are no surviving myths of Danu, there are surviving myths of the goddess Brigitte, and she is said to be Danu. Now, on this one point, I do think that perhaps Diana of the Greco-Roman tradition may in fact be another name for Danu. I actually think that may be possible, but I am having a bit of a hard time with Bridget. I think that Bridget is actually a different goddess altogether. Bridget, of course, was incorporated. It's possible that Bridget of ancient Ireland and the saint in Catholicism are one and the same. But I really don't feel that Bridget and Danu are one and the same. However, Danu could be Bridget's mother. Remember that she is the mother of all. So that is the goddess Danu. If you know of a story of her, or as I said, or you have created one, please also link that in the comments below, because I would be fascinated to learn anything more about this amazing and ancient entity. Now, the reason that Bunny is holding onto this cauldron for me is that a cauldron filled with water was actually a symbol associated with the goddess Danu. The surviving paintings and artwork that we have of Danu in modern day often represent her with a cauldron in the depiction with her. Probably because the cauldron often was associated as a physical representation of the feminine womb. And as you can see, if you can see, I don't want to tip it and spill it on the table, but if you look closely, can you see it in there? I do have the cauldron filled with water. Now, there is a practice called scrying, which is an occult practice, and is associated often with witchcraft and occult practices, and ooh, isn't that scary? It's not. But if you are scared, I would recommend that you stop the video now, because my suggestion was that since there are no surviving stories of the goddess Danu, that I would demonstrate for you what scrying is, with the hopes of perhaps that I could scry for you some information about the goddess Danu in a vessel, if you will, sacred to her, with one of her elements. And in fact, actually, the cauldron, if you think about it, is a perfect representation for Danu, because it represents those two feminine energies that I talked about. The water, it holds the water, is the womb, if you will, for the water. That is one of her feminine energies. And then the cauldron itself is made of cast iron, and iron is a substance that is forged, which is mined deep from the earth. So it represents both of her elements at once here. So let me explain the concept of scrying to you. Ooh, we're gonna do some magic. Oh, how exciting. Occult magic. Oh, it's not scary. There is nothing to be afraid of when you do scry, so you can try this at home. I promise that nothing will happen to you at all. So the idea is that you fill a vessel. It's often helpful, if you will, if you have a dark vessel like this. Another thing that you can do is that you can, if you have, for instance, a lighter colored bowl or a clear bowl is all that you have access to, you can actually tint the water with ink or a modern element that is readily available in most human grocery stores is food coloring. So you could tint the water so that the water is not clear and does not show the tablecloth below, so that you are creating a bit of a darker mirror-like quality in the water. And all you do is simply just relax your mind and gaze into the water. Now, a lot of people are frustrated by scrying because They say, I don't know if what I'm seeing is actually there or if I'm imagining it. Well, the answer is it's working. If you're imagining, it's working. Because I want to make it very clear that magic is, in fact, imagination. That's what it is. And magic, and just because it's imagination does not mean that it's not real. Let's take, for example, an icon of American culture, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs had to imagine what he wanted to accomplish before he could produce it. So I would argue that Steve Jobs is a magical practitioner because he imagined what he wanted to accomplish, and then he manifested those in a tangible way. But first, before you can do anything, you have to have a clear, imaginative picture. Let me just try that again. You have to have a clear, imaginative picture of what you want to accomplish. So when you are scrying, just allow yourself to see whatever you see. Allow your imagination to flow. That is what scrying is doing. It is simply giving you a place to let your imagination run wild. It's not dangerous. I guarantee you it is not. This is your own mind. And you're just giving it a place to show you what's in there. So think of your scrying tool, your little cauldron filled with water. This is a place for you to see your dreams. So with that, now sometimes it can be very hard to quiet your mind. So sometimes it's easier to do scrying if you give yourself a little mantra. You can simply just say over and over in your mind's eye, I'm scrying in this water. I am scrying in this water. And if your mind goes off topic, if your mind gets bored and you're like, I don't see anything, just simply say, I will see what I see. That's another mantra that you can say. I will see what I see. I will see what I see. And if your mind starts to filter off, then just note that it wandered off and just say, come on back. I will see what I see. I will see what I see. And you just observe what's in the cauldron. So that is what I will attempt to do right now, is I will attempt to see particularly anything related to the great goddess Danu, and see if there's any image or story that comes across in the water. Now, a lot of times when you start to scry, all you see is the darkness of the water, and that's perfectly a valid image. So now what I'm seeing in the water is I am seeing the image of a small white bird. I want to say dove, but I don't think it's a dove. It's something else. It's not a seagull. It's more dove-like in quality. The other thing is that I'm noticing is a bit of a film. There seems to be a mist, and that sparks a memory that I did not have in my notes, is that one of the images of Danu is an image of the mist. that image sparks to my mind the image of the mists of Avalon. So it seems that Danu has a strong connection to that Arthurian lore. Now I have the image of a woman. I would place her late 30s to mid 40s. Has very kind eyes. She has reddish brownish hair, very light in color. She has eyes of green. She has a very square type of jawline. And she is wearing some kind of wreath in her hair, either ivy or flowers of some kind. And she is dressed in some type of green gown, but mostly this image that I have is of her face. She has a very gentle, composed face. She's not quite smiling, but she looks very friendly, very welcoming. And now she is gesturing to me and showing me an expanse. We appear to be on some kind of cliff, and I'm looking over some kind of lush valley. There is now, how do I explain this? The water seems to be vibrating. I get the impression that it's like the vibration of some kind of string instrument. It's not a violin, it's something more like a harp, but it is not like a lyre from Greece. It's something that I have never seen before. I'm definitely getting more sense of an Irish-looking countryside. I have had the great fortune of being in Ireland. Ireland is perhaps the most green place I have ever seen in my years of existence. And this green that I'm seeing in this valley is definitely the green vegetation of Ireland. Although this also could be Scotland. I had that impression that it was like, this is also Scotland, or is Scotland. The story that she wants to tell seems to be one of a well. There is a well, apparently, that goes to the center of the earth, or to the underworld, perhaps. And this story of the well, she says, is associated with her. So it is a journey to the underworld, I think, via entering a well that goes down into the earth. There is also the vision of a tree in this same story. I'm getting the impression that there is some connection to an acorn in this story of the well. It seems that there is something about an acorn falling down into this well, and the acorn drops into the center of the earth, and then this tree then grows up through the water and through this well. And that is a story that is associated with Danu, a story of a well and an acorn. And there is also the bird from earlier, the small white bird, seems to be a part of this story. I'm seeing more mist. There is mist billowing out of this well, and also as the tree rises from this well. And I am getting the idea that this is a creation story, because I had an image of like an outer space viewing of the earth. And I am seeing like mountains as well. I could go on forever scrying like this, but I don't want the video to run too long. If anyone, these images of an acorn, a well, and a tree, and a white bird resonates with anyone, if you could please leave a comment below, I would really appreciate it. And also I would be curious to know if you liked this introduction to scrying, and if you would like to see any more videos like this in the future. Be sure to give us a like if you like this video. Bunny and I love those thumbs up on our channel. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Have a fairyful day.